Hey everybody, welcome to Maine Wedding Buzz, and today I am honored to have Sara Scollay from Sara Scollay Designs as our guest. And again, thank you for joining our show, and we'll get to some really cool questions and some great design ideas. So, Sara, tell us how you got into the industry.
So good to see you.
You too? You too?
How did I get into the industry? 20 years ago in Chicago.
Oh well.
Found just actually literally walked into this flower store of this very talented designer and who serviced Chicago, the whole North Shore, Lake Forest, very high end. And she taught me about flowers in a whole other way that I didn't even know existed. It was just unusual designs, unusual color, very high end. And I never left it and moved back to the East Coast, to Boston, was one of Winston's designers. And then eventually here I am in Portland. We're based out of Portland.
And how many years have you been in business?
About 20 years.
Wow, excellent. Oh my God.
And my business, so 20 years of my career, and starting my business in Portland has been about 8 years. So
Excellent. Oh my
fairly
God.
new in Portland, but a long, extensive
Because
background.
I think we moved here almost around the same time when we moved here, and,
Yeah.
and I first met you, and I remember calling you one day and saying, I need this floral design for an event we're doing, and I just said to you, the room is mahogany, it's wood panel, and it reeks of just a men's club. And you brought me this beautiful centerpiece that I'll never forget because you got what I said within a second of me telling you on the phone. And do you normally with clients do it that way?
So it's really important to listen. And being creative people, we have all these ideas. We just always want to use the next idea that we have in our head. And you have to clear your head and really listen to what that person is saying, and just absorb it, and then take it on. And over the phone, I get a feel, but I always encourage to meet the people because you need that visual, the interaction. So I always encourage people to at least meet in person. It's a destination place, Maine is, so sometimes we're, talking over the computer, but
Has Skype played an important part, like doing?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
what a lot of
important,
people. Yeah.
And especially again, Maine being a destination.
Where do you pull your clients from? Do you pull them from California, New York, Washington?
We travel. So it's been fortunate for us. We do events all over New England.
Oh wow.
But we also travel, or I primarily travel, all over the United States. Whether I'm working for a client, working for another company sometimes, or another designer. We have some high-profile clientele, primarily traveling to DC a lot. And so we're all over. I mean, it's taken a different route.
That's excellent.
But I always love doing events here in Maine.
What's your favorite thing to plan, would you say?
I can't pick one because then I'd be bored.
Yeah.
I need to have that wedding. I need to have the corporate party. I need to have the private, intimate party in someone's home, in someone's residence. So, we also do holiday decorating for homes, and that's always fun to do. But as long as there's, as long as we get to be creative and get to be a part of that, creating, I would say all kinds of.
Do you feel that more and more people are opening their doors to having designers come in and decorate at Christmas because the time has become so crucial that it's better to have somebody else come in and do it so that they can do other things that frees them up?
It does, certain things. And what we've always been fortunate about, we will come in and decorate, but I always love to see them put in their own touches.
Oh, nice.
Their traditions, whether it's the collection of nutcrackers, what have you. But I think time plays a big part of it, and no one likes to put those Christmas lights on the trees.
No, I agree. That's 100% not my thing to do. Now, I see that, we've talked in previous shows about Real Maine magazine here, and we actually have had a wedding together in there that's actually gone sort of viral because no matter where we turn, we keep seeing this wedding. And tell us a little bit about that wedding because I think you did a phenomenal
Okay,
job.
well, thank you, as you did. And what it comes down to is the team. It was an unbelievable team. We had Blue Elephant Catering, we had Cup of Photography, we had Sara Scollay, and in the past we've always worked as a great team. This bride was...
She came into it knowing what she wanted, and that's
She
also
was.
very important to sort of do those things, from whether it's the floral, she had specific photos, and you knew and what she wanted, and you captured it, because I remember her coming into the room and tears coming down her face, and I knew at that moment that you did it. You did what she wanted her to do.
That is the best feeling.
It was.
And I don't
gives
want
you
all
goosebumps.
brides to cry, but I mean, it's the best feeling
But
to
she
know
cried
that.
because she knew it was everything she had dreamed about. So that was really kind of cool.
It was, yeah. She did. She came with a foundation, and then the group came together, collaborated,
And put it together.
So it was really such a team effort.
It was an easy day. That's what I remember from it. It was an easy day. There was no stress. There was none of that running around. I think we got the tables done in 2 hours with all the details.
Thousands of candles.
Lots of candles. I remember the clickers were going dead.
It was beautiful though.
But the one floral that seems to be popping up is the one of the whole bridal party, and she has her bouquets, everyone's holding them, and the bride's bouquet is there as well, which has gone from the CVB's booklet to the Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens book to Real Maine Weddings to including Cater Source, which is an international magazine, which is very cool, and it helped us both, I think, is having that exposure. So
Good.
and having wonderful floral design there as well.
Thank you.
And which, it's interesting because there are people that have budgets, but there are people who don't. So how does that affect you and with the economy that took a little dive in 2008, 2009, has that affected you in any way?
It doesn't affect you. It didn't affect us, but it made everyone be a little more creative.
Yeah.
It made the client, maybe if they were on a stricter budget, to say, well, this is what I want, but here's the reality of what I can spend. So how do we go about getting that vision? Maybe it's putting a little bit of an accent of the whole picture. Maybe it's doing colors. I think what really helps is linens.
And you brought some samples.
I did, because I think linens, you put a beautiful flower arrangement on a white polyester banquet cloth, doesn't do anything for the flowers. You pick out your beautiful linen,
Make it
and
pop.
then put the flowers on there. I mean, it's a little red, but then the littlest flower arrangement can just be...
And how do you pick out your palettes? I see that you have these swatches.
And this is what my office usually looks like. It's just like with linens and paint chips. I'm always at...
We love samples, so it's always good. It's very creative to have those.
I'm always at fabric stores or at hardware stores looking at paint chips.
And creating palettes.
Yeah, and getting samples of, just...
Do you do storyboards? Because I sometimes do that as well.
I do storyboards, but again, I have to do them on the computer for a client, but I have so many real ones where it's cut fabric, because again, it's all about touching, and you can have so much fun with the colors. I mean, think outside the box without getting too garish.
Well, that brings thinking outside of the box. I mean, if you look at this arrangement, I think is phenomenal. You've incorporated food into it. And do you want to talk about this? Because I think that this is beautiful.
It gets food because it's going to a caterer afterwards. But it's really, it's color, being inspired by color. So there's so many times where I go to the farmer's market and I see these deep purple peppers and orange radishes, and all of a sudden we'll click, oh, look at these colors together and this and that. So I saw this dark purple eggplant. I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous. I picked up a few. And then it was the sunflowers, the chocolate sunflowers.
I saw those. Those are beautiful.
And then it was just okay, well, what can we mix that's outside of the box but all flows? So yes, you have orange, but you have a tint of orange and that magenta. So it's about mixing and being crazy with color, but also being coordinating and not
Wow. And I think you captured, I mean, from the garlic here, right?
garlic. Yeah,
Which you just
curly
curly
garlic,
garlic,
mint, sage, kale.
the kale, right? And then you did an interesting pattern down here with paper, which is different, and I like
So
that.
we do a lot of covering vases,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a leaf line, unless the stems are perfectly turned in a vase. I don't show stems.
Oh wow.
I just don't like the look of it. So
So
we started covering vases, whether it's fabric.
This is an interesting pattern too, which really does a lot to cover a vase. So I think that's great.
And you know, we also take fabric and do bridal bouquets.
And,
Yeah.
this one is an interesting piece too.
So that's a little more tedious.
A lot of work there.
little hemlock trees outside my home encouraged me to do that. But yeah, just coming up with all kinds of elements and covering vases.
And different ideas.
Yeah.
Which leads me into vases that are on a table. You know, high, low, big, tall ones. What's your preference between vases? I mean, do you have a choice, or do you stir clients in the right direction? So if you have a 60-inch round table that seats 10, what do you prefer seeing on the table, or is that mostly what the client decides, and then you just go with the flow?
Well, they decide, but again, I guide them. This type of vase has a flower fall softly, whereas a square, it's going to be a little more modern and stiff.
Okay.
So I like anything that makes a flower fall, the bouquet fall softly. I also go a little bit larger scale. I think sometimes we get, in the floral industry, there's too much compact. I think you need to go a little bigger. I also sometimes don't even like to use a container. There's nothing more beautiful than, you know, not seeing the dish that the flower is in, the mechanics, but just seeing the arrangement sitting on top of the.
Almost like it's growing off the table. Interesting. I like
Beautiful,
that.
and I think we might be seeing that. I have a feeling if we were looking at trends in the future, I wonder if vases are going to, or containers are going to be
Something that's
prominent. I think it's going to be the flowers that
take
maybe
over the
take
table.
over.
So when you and which is interesting, because when you first go into a room, your eye is immediately drawn to linen and to centerpieces,
Yeah.
and not the china, not the silverware. It's important, but floral and linens play a very critical part in making the whole event come together. Do you think that that's true?
I do, along with lighting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think having the right lighting in some places, absolutely,
And good
definitely.
food.
What do you think is the trend for 2015,
So
aside from the floral?
I think, aside from the floral,
Aside from
trend-
florals that are sitting low, like do you see like trees being brought
I
in?
think the floral design world looks at the fashion industry. And I think what's ever happening in the fashion industry,
Sort of plays up.
everyone else follows, no matter what field it is. And so if you're seeing bohemian, carefree look,
I agree.
anthropology look, then that's kind of how everyone's going to be designing. If you see more clean, very clean,
Minimalistic sort of kind
yeah,
of feel.
then it's going to go that route. I think we've done this fun, loose style. I think it will go into maybe a more clean look, but then again, it's going to go, what is the client?
Yeah.
I mean, is the client a clean, modern feel, or are they more carefree?
Some
So-
clients allow you to just go with your vision because they just say, I trust you and this is what I want you to do. Here's an always interesting question that I try to pose to people because it happens to me a lot. Do you find yourself sort of falling in love with the client that at the end you feel like, oh, this is my friend, and you sort of have to separate yourself a little bit because at the end they sort of kind of go away and they're just really a temporary friend for the 6 to 9 months. And so I sometimes
Temporary.
get too close to people. And do you feel the same way? I mean,
So I try to keep it always a professional level, but it's true, you can be connected to clients, and really, depending on how long you work with them, sometimes it's a year or over where you're really constantly working with them, so you do gain a relationship. And it's funny because I'll go on my Facebook page, and now I'm watching them have children and watching their children grow up. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I
You're
need to
sort of
cut the advertisement.
well, which is interesting because with Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter and Instagram, it's become a real social media, for our business. And like I've said this before on other shows, when I first started out, it was word of mouth, and today it's all social media driven. How do you feel with your business? Has it really gone that route? Do you do your social media, and how do you play that into your business?
We do work a lot with social media. We're, we do, you have to.
Yeah.
Everyone is, you have to. That's where businesses are being
Drawn to,
profiled,
yeah.
right? With the Pinterest and all of that, I use it as a guideline because there's just too much. And sometimes the client will come with every vision in the world, and we have to take a
Trim it
few
down.
hours. Okay. You have this, and this look because it's all from. So again, I try not to focus. Every now and then I'll go on it to kind of maybe inspire me, but I really, I stay away from it.
Excellent. Do you because I think for me, I remember meeting a client for the first time, and they'd come in and they'd have these books before Pinterest was around, and every piece of paper was cut in there, every little look, and you'd look at it and you're like, oh, okay, and I get it. But sometimes Pinterest does help because then you can sort of formulate what the client's all about.
Yes, and you use it as a foundation.
Exactly, like a guide,
and
like
you
said.
put in your look.
Now, do you, with your design company, do you do full design of everything? Do you come in, do a whole room, or is it just floral? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I like to be very clear. We are not an event planner. We're, number one, a floral design company, and if needed, an event designer.
Nice.
So we will definitely design the whole look, the whole room, but many times we're working with others, caterers and planners, sometimes caterers and planners. I know when I've worked with you, you have the design a lot of times already set, so we come in and then
And it complements.
and work, yeah. And okay, what are the linens? But so we do design all sorts of events, the whole look. But other times we're just part of the team.
Excellent.
And we, again, like you said, we come in and complement.
And I think I like that. It's one of those things when everybody comes in together and you know everybody that's working on a wedding or a corporate event or a big retreat. It's nice to have that because everybody knows each other and you feel comfortable. I think it really helps. And sometimes you'll have a renegade vendor and you become friends with them afterwards, but sometimes you don't know and you're like, oh, okay, well, everything happened on time. And I think with us, I think that's a real important thing.
It's true. And also, if you don't know people, find your position. Scan it out, find your position. You don't need so many captains or so many chefs, just, because it works much smoother.
What's been your biggest challenge for this year?
Biggest challenge, I would think, being in a small community. Maine is such a small state in so many ways, and especially Portland is a small city. My biggest challenge is to stay separated from everyone else, because I have found everyone's a floral designer, everyone's a planner. The girl next door, she did her friend's bridal shower or baby shower. Oh, you do such a great job. And now they have a website.
Yeah.
So they put together a few flowers from the farmer's market. They're a designer.
Yeah.
So just keeping separate from that.
Yeah.
And there are so many talented people out there. But I think because of my intense background and the training that I've had and training under world-renowned designers, I'm constantly taking classes still.
Wow.
Because it's really important not to get comfortable and stale. So
And which always leads me back to when I call you or when I need something or when I send a client to you, it's because I know that's where it'll work because you'll listen to them. And I know everybody else does the same thing, but what's helped me in knowing you in these last 8 years is, we did an event I think it was March of 2013, and I had something in my head that I was thinking about, and I said, well, I want clean lines, minimalistic vases with just calla lilies.
Okay.
I said, pick them. Do whatever you want to do, but I want these 6 vases on this long teak table. And you did it. And so I came in. I didn't have to worry about it. I didn't have to stress about it. I was like, okay, well, that was what was in my head. And so you got it, and that's a really good feeling. And I've assembled a really good team that way that I trust. And I think that's how, for me, it works really well, because I don't need to tell you how to do your job. You know it, and so that's what's great. And I don't have to micromanage that. I just have to say, this is what I'm thinking about. And sometimes it's a little wacky.
I love that, though.
But it's sort of over the top, and what's in my head sometimes doesn't always translate well. But you get it, and I really do appreciate that from the first day we met.
I'm actually in your head.
Exactly. Which is interesting. Sometimes we'll talk on the phone for hours. Where do you see yourself in the 2015, 2016? And like I've said before, as event people, we think a year in advance.
Right.
So by January, February, March, we're really thinking in 2016 season. And so, where do you see yourself in those 2 seasons?
Besides bigger and better?
Nice. Send it out there to the universe.
That's right. I think in our field, in any creative field, there's so many different avenues that you can go down, so many different paths that lead you into maybe not just weddings and parties, but so many other things, so many other parts of the design world. So I keep absolutely doors open to anything. As much as I love to travel, I also like to make sure that I stay connected to my community.
Nice. That's sort of how I feel as well. That you give back to where you're at, and this is where my business is, and so this is where I do my
You're
work.
hostessing. You're hostessing to these people that are coming to Maine, and people who are from here.
And I noticed too that you brought some other magazines, so I know that you're in. Is that Seacoast Weddings too?
Seacoast Weddings. Over the years, we used to work closely with Veranda, so I was in Veranda and a Traditional Homes book.
Oh wow, really?
So yeah, so my work has been spread out.
Absolutely, you're in a book. You're published. That's wonderful. Magazines are published too, but being in a book, that's phenomenal. I learned something new.
My work is.
Which is an extension. I always think that when you put it out there, I think, and this is something I've asked other guests. I said, do you still get butterflies? And why I always ask that is I think sometimes people forget to get the butterflies because they've gotten over what they do. And I still get the butterflies because it makes me feel like, not that I'm nervous about doing the job, I know it's going to be done well. Do you still?
It's beyond butterflies. It's physically ill. And I will not, because you have such high I have such high standards, and I don't want to ever disappoint.
Yeah.
I always want everyone to be more than happy, thrilled. So I actually, even looking, when I take that last look of the room, I probably am not satisfied until I hear from the client, which drives me crazy because they'll go on their honeymoons, or they'll be busy, and then finally, or when Kelsey came up to me, until I have that
feeling. Yeah.
that everything, then
everything's smooth. Yeah.
But
That's how I feel
is.
too.
Yeah.
And getting wonderful client feedback and wonderful letters, that's always a plus. And
Of course.
it sort of helps in your, I did what they asked me to do, and it's a good feeling.
I did what they asked me to, but don't forget the future clients.
That are going to see that work, exactly.
And I always do, every client that I take on, they are my first client.
Oh, wow.
So a client comes in, I take them on as if that very first day I opened business, or the very first day I designed an event.
That's really an interesting. I think a lot of people forget where they started because they've gotten either big, and it's not saying that you're putting somebody else down, but I remember my very first wedding almost 26 years ago, which was all paper products, and I thought I was the cat's meow. But I thank God every day that girl allowed me to do her wedding, regardless that it was paper products, because it was the catalyst to where I am today.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so when you forget that person because you're like, oh, well, that was paper products, you forget who you are. And I think a lot of people are doing that. And like you just said, it's your first job every time.
Right.
And then that's a wonderful way to treat every client that comes in your door, I think.
And exactly, and they're the hostess, whether the bride or hostessing an intimate party or corporate. It's a reflection on them,
Yeah.
what's happening. So they need to make sure that they're shining.
They're shining and that everything looks perfect.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, this is another wrap for our Maine wedding buzz. I'm so grateful for Sara to come by today and chat with me and be my fourth guest and continue this role. And we're going to bring more people on and talk about more wedding stuff as the season continues. And hopefully you guys are enjoying this and that we can bring more and help you out with a lot of stuff. And again, I'm Fausto with Maine Wedding Buzz. And Sara, thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's so great to see you.
You too.